do? Vaguely remember. I know it's been a while since the snow day and all that. But what I originally wanted to do with this was have like a mock trial sort of thing where you guys would actually get to play a certain witness, but because of the weather and the time, we don't get to do that. So I'm just going to go through all of the different witnesses in the trial a little bit, give you an overview of it, and then I'm going to have you answer a short writing question at the end. Any questions before we get started?
Nope.
Eventually, yes. Yes, I'm going to make you guys write. Okay, so this trial starts in 1951, and this is one of the main witnesses that we first start talking to, Max Ehrlicher. He is someone that meets Julius Rosenberg at the City College of New York in their college days. They're both active in communist groups during college, so that is the connection there. And by the time of the trial, this guy here testifies that Julius Rosenberg had attempted to recruit him as a spy. So that is number one evidence against Julius Rosenberg. He was recruiting people to work as spies during this time. And then David Greenglass, do you remember him from last week? Yeah. Who had David Greenglass? Katie?
Yeah.
What was he up to? Do we remember?
Something about like the nuclear, he was giving up nuclear secrets, right?
Yeah, he is actually the brother of Ethel Rosenberg, Julius Rosenberg's wife. And he worked on the Manhattan Project while serving in the U.S. Army. He was stationed there at Los Alamos. He was working on the project, so he was recruited by Julius to participate in espionage activity during this time. So that is what he was eventually convicted of and spent 15 years in prison for. He testifies eventually against the Rosenbergs in exchange for immunity for his wife, Ruth. So he receives a 15-year sentence for his espionage activity. Any questions about David Greenglass? Ruth Greenglass is his wife. She testifies that Julius had approached her husband asking for a physical description of the project at Los Alamos. So Julius approaches David and wants a description of what they're doing at the Manhattan Project, what specifically like the secrets of the atomic bomb. And so she testifies that Ethel Rosenberg had actually typed up those notes that David Greenglass comes up with. So he finds these secrets, he writes down the physical description of the Manhattan Project, gives those to Julius, and then his wife Ethel is the one that was typing these up. So that kind of sealed her deal and made her guilty as well. But she gets to go free because her husband testified against the Rosenbergs. Did you guys testify against your siblings? Depends on what it was.
If they die for it.
You wouldn't do that?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You guys don't have younger siblings that drive you nuts.
Like,
I'm the
yeah, I
oldest,
suppose
so I have the younger ones. Okay, and then we have Harry Gold. Who had Harry Gold last week? John, what was he up to?
Did we have? Yeah, we had the. Did we have Harry Gold? Was his like real fake name like Ailes or something?
No,
I don't remember.
That was Alger Hiss.
Oh yeah.
No, this guy was actually one of the most trusted spies of the Soviets, and he is sentenced to 30 years in prison for his espionage activity. And he was in contact with Klaus Fuchs. Do you remember Klaus Fuchs? What did he do? Connor, what did Klaus Fuchs do?
I remember that he was doing some kind of government secrets.
Yes, he was that British scientist, remember, that was working at the Manhattan Project, and he is one of the first guys that's actually arrested on the Venona Project and convicted for his spy activity. And then, well, he's from Germany originally, and then once the Nazis start taking power in the 30s, then he gets out of there and goes to Great Britain. So, yeah, technically he's German. And he was in contact with Hopkins and David Greenglass. So that's the connection there to Rosenberg. And then Elizabeth Bentley is another person that testifies. She's known as the Red Spy Queen. She was really high up in the Soviet espionage activity, and she was the person who was taking messages from Julius Rosenberg to Jacob Golos, who was the chief of Soviet espionage operations in the United States. So this was the guy that was in charge of all of the whole spy ring that we had in the United States. So, any questions about any of those witnesses? No. All right, and then we have Julius Rosenberg. He joins the Steinmetz Club in college, which is a young communist league, and he is dismissed from the U.S. Army Signal Corps for his alleged communist activity. Once he eventually gets out of college, he studies engineering in college and gets a job with the Army, but he's dismissed because of his communist activity. And that would have been during the Red Scare. Remember we were talking about how Truman was making making employees sign a oath of loyalty, and the FBI was screening people. Remember that? He was one of those victims of that. So he joins the American Communist Party with his wife, and the Green Glasses do that as well. And he's eventually convicted and sentenced to death for his espionage activities. He was the person that was kind of in charge of Green Glass and these different people, and bringing all that information together and actually passing it to the Soviets. And then his wife, Ethel, is actually the sister of David Greenglass. She joins the American Communist Party as well, and she's sentenced to death just like Julius is, even though she played more of a minor role, and it's pretty debated whether or not she should have been executed. Alright, so the verdict. We, the jury, find Julius Rosenberg guilty as charged. We, the jury, find Ethel Rosenberg guilty as charged. So they are charged with what? Espionage activity, yes. The jury is in debate for about 8 hours, and they come up with this verdict, so that's really not that long. They decide pretty quickly, and these two are sentenced to death in 1953, and they get the electric chair. So, I don't think that would be a very fun way to die.
Shocking.
Better than hanging? Yeah. I'd say better than...
No.
Okay, so what I would like you to do now, does anyone have any questions about the Rosenberg trial?
I'd rather die
What?
I'd rather die by drowning or something.
By drowning?
You pass out and you die.
Oh, I don't know if I can pick a good way. So what I want you to do now is get out a piece of paper and choose one of these 3 questions to spend about 5 minutes answering, based on what we've been learning about this past week. Do you agree with the verdict, why or why not? Was they were guilty of committing espionage activity? Does this crime warrant the death penalty? Why or why not? Should they deserve to die for their espionage activity, or should there have been a lesser sentence, do you think? Or how did the culture of fear brought on by the Red Scare influence this trial of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg? So just pick one of those questions and spend about 5 minutes answering, and then we'll discuss it quickly on questions. Yeah, just do 1, 2, or 3. So which question? You don't have to write the actual question.